Another college football Saturday is in the books, which means it's time for another Johnny Talk Sports Top 10 ranking. So, my new top 10 after week 5 of the college football season. And right away, it's probably going to at least create a debate in the comment section. But at number 1, I have the Clemson Tigers. And the reason why this may be a debate is because all throughout social media this evening, I've seen a majority of comments or takes that said that Clemson should get knocked off their number 1 ranking because of the 1 point victory over North Carolina. And I still think despite the 1 point victory over North Carolina, I still think they are deserving of keeping that number 1 ranking. And the reason why is because North Carolina, they're not a team to take lightly. The Tar Heels may now be 2-3, but all 5 of their games this season have been decided by 1 possession. So North Carolina, that football team led by head coach Mack Brown, North Carolina is going to make opponents work for the victory, and they made Clemson work. Even Dabo Swinney said that North Carolina outcoached them and Clemson just did enough to win. But I still think Clemson is deserving to stay number 1, also because they have a convincing victory over Texas A&M, who is in the top 25. So they have that one top 25 victory. And number 2, I have Alabama. And the Crimson Tide, they're number 2 because a lot of people think that Alabama may leapfrog Clemson into the number 1 spot. But I'll be surprised if it happens, but I just can't see it happening at this point. Because Alabama hasn't played a competitive schedule like Clemson has. Clemson has at least played 2 competitive teams, I feel like. Texas A&M and North Carolina. North Carolina is a competitive football team. And North Carolina could easily win maybe 8-9 games next season. And even if Clemson does lose the number 1 ranking, I feel like this doesn't make Clemson overrated at all. If you look at the national champions, just from the 21st century alone, maybe even a lot of national champions in general, but particularly in this 21st century, every team that has won the national championship has had almost, if not every single one of them, they have a game, at least one game a year, where they have to grind it out and win. They win a close game, they survive. Or they've lost a game and they've had to rally the team together to get back to championship form. It's happened almost every single year in this 21st century, except for maybe Florida State the year they won the national championship. However, they still had to come back against Auburn in the second half to win that national championship game. Because sometimes in college football, it's just about surviving and advancing. And that's what Clemson had to do today. Every single team is going to have to do that at some point. Whether if it's Alabama or even Georgia or LSU or Ohio State, all those teams are going to have to at least have, they're at least going to have to survive and advance at least one time. Because it's very difficult to have a college football team grind out 13, 14, 15 wins in a row. It's just a challenging task. Number 3, I have LSU. That doesn't really change. LSU had a bye week. Number 4, the Georgia Bulldogs, bye week. So really that doesn't change at all. Number 5, I have the Auburn Tigers. That doesn't change at all. I had Auburn at 5 last week. Although I did consider leapfrogging, or I almost had Auburn leapfrogging LSU and Georgia, but I feel like it could have been too much. I was considering Georgia, considering Auburn has 2 convincing victories over top 25 teams. you could argue that Auburn is deserving to at least be in the top 4 at this point. But if they win against Florida next week, they could easily leapfrog Georgia or even LSU if they can beat Florida convincingly. Number 6, I have the Ohio State Buckeyes. The Buckeyes, they blew out the Cornhuskers on the road 48-7, which was a big surprise to me and a lot of people as well, because I thought Nebraska, they had potential to make the game competitive, but Ohio State just moved the ball at will. And another part of an argument that you can have is, could Ohio State be in the top 4 as well? Because Ohio State, they've been scoring on opponents at will. But the further on the season we go, we're going to find out how good this Ohio State team is. Because they're going to have a big one next week against Michigan State. So that's going to be a big test for Ohio State. Number 7, I have the Oklahoma Sooners. And the Sooners, they had a convincing win against Texas Tech today. But it was Texas Tech, and they were playing 2 different quarterbacks in that game because Alan Bowman was out. But Oklahoma still got the win. But kind of like Ohio State, kind of like Auburn, all these teams, except for maybe Clemson, we're going to find out how good they really are. Number 8, I have the Wisconsin Badgers. And the Badgers, maybe they felt a little overconfident going into today against Northwestern after the big convincing win over Michigan last week, because Northwestern was in the game for quite some time. In fact, the difference in that game for Wisconsin today was their defense, because out of the 24 points they scored, 14 of them were off defensive touchdowns. So, Wisconsin, I don't know, it could have been possibly a little bit overconfident. Maybe we bought into the Wisconsin hype after that win last week. But, like I said, sometimes it's about survive and advance. Number 9, I have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And I know this is going to be hypocritical. I will say it will be hypocritical of me because I have at number 10 the Florida Gators. Because last week I put Florida ahead of Notre Dame because I was giving Florida the benefit of the doubt. Not really the benefit of the doubt, but benefit of being undefeated. However, I feel like Notre Dame's performance today against Virginia, I feel like it's respectable enough to put Notre Dame ahead of Florida, considering Florida played a Townsend team that really is going to have no effect. What I'm saying is I respect Notre Dame's win today against an 18th ranked Virginia team than I do Florida's victory over Townsend. So overall, that's my top 10, but outside of it, number 11, I would probably put Texas, Oregon, 11 and 12. But one thing that I do want to address that was in the comments section of the Week 5 predictions video, where I began with the top 10, is the Pac-12 being eliminated from the playoff completely. And I feel like the Pac-12 is still alive. I feel like you have one team in particular that's still alive. I still think the Oregon Ducks' playoff hopes are still alive, especially if you look at the top 10 that I just presented. Because what you have in this top 10, you have Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Auburn, and Florida. You have 5 teams in the SEC in this top 10. And like I just said, that I have Oregon at right now 11 or 12 in this ranking. I didn't think of it that far. But if Oregon wins out, and let's just say that Auburn's going to be the team from the SEC that wins out. They go 12-0. They win the SEC championship game against, let's just say, Georgia, most likely. Then Auburn becomes one of those 4 teams. Could Oregon have an argument if they win out? Because Oregon does play Cal. They play Washington, Arizona State, and possibly even Utah for the Pac-12 championship. And Oregon's schedule does look difficult, but if they can run the table, I think Oregon has a respectable argument to be one of those 4 teams, especially if out of those 5 SEC teams in this top 10, if it happens to be Auburn that wins out, considering Oregon's only loss would be that 6-point loss to Auburn on opening weekend. As much as I respect Auburn so far this season, I feel like they have the best resume. I feel like if that Auburn-Oregon game was redid, I feel like Oregon could possibly pull off the win, because Oregon, they seem to beat themselves in that game. So anyways, let's just say that Ohio State and Wisconsin, those are in the top 10 as well. One of them is going to lose because they play each other in a couple of weeks. So we would eliminate not only 4 of these SEC teams, but we'd eliminate either Ohio State or Wisconsin. But let's just say Wisconsin, because with a 1-loss Wisconsin team a couple of years ago, with their only loss being in the Big Ten championship game, it wasn't good enough for the committee. So if Wisconsin doesn't go undefeated, I think they're going to be out. And let's just say Notre Dame ends up losing to Michigan, so they'd be out. So we've already eliminated 4 SEC teams. We've eliminated either Ohio State or Wisconsin, and we've potentially eliminated Notre Dame. That would be 6. So Oregon could easily leapfrog those 6 teams, and even OU and Texas. And let's just say Oklahoma becomes that winner. And then let's just say Oklahoma and Texas play in the Big 12 championship game. And the loser of the Big 12 championship game was the winner the first time. So now we're in complete chaos. As far as I'm concerned, I think any team with 1 loss right now or that's undefeated is still alive in the college football playoff race. So that is my top 10. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.